Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, I'm playing around in my art journal, and along the way on this page, you're going to see me do something that felt very precise, like things had to be lined up just right. And it's kind of ridiculous how much pressure that felt like and how I really thought I was going in there with surgical precision, because this isn't surgical precision, but it is to me. And another reason why, you know why I'm not a doctor, even though I have the handwriting of one. And speaking of handwriting, you're going to see what I do to my pen at the end that you should probably not do to your pen if you want it to have a long and healthy life. So what I've got here is an altered book journal. What that is a book that I am art journaling directly on the pages. I didn't gesso or prime or prep. I just put some paint on that gel press plate and slapped it right on the page. And you can tell there was a lot of mess on that plate, and that's how I got all that wonderful grungy background going there. Now what about the red circles? Well, that was a round gel press plate. I put some red paint on it and then stuck those guys on there. Pretty randomly, didn't really have any plan for it, but all of a sudden a plan showed up as soon as I grabbed one of my masks. Now this mask comes in the Dance of This Life stencil set, and that stencil set involves all of the masks for all of the people on here. So you can see where it's basically you get the stencil and the mask with it. Now because of that, I could kind of move it around on the page and see that it just perfectly fit, like it was holding up those two red circles or jumping off of them or something. I'm not sure exactly at this point which it was, but I knew I wanted to put it on the page. Now what you're going to see is the precision with which I want to do this, because I actually really want to get this placed exactly where it is so that it has the hand on one of the red circles and feet on the other one. So to me, this is a delicate procedure. I have got to make sure that I've got it in exactly the right place. I gotta tell you, the pressure is mounting here to make sure I get this lined up just perfectly. I'm holding the mask right where I want it. Then I'm going to bring the stencil in and get it positioned right on top of the mask, because they fit together like little puzzle pieces, because they kind of one was cut out of the other. But anyway, once I've got it where I want it, I'm going to hold the stencil in place and then pull the mask away. Now I can't let the stencil move because then it wouldn't all be magically lined up. And I'm telling you, the pressure was intense for me with this. Now, as I was stenciling along, the hand and the feet that were touching the red circles, yeah, they're fine. They're in the right place. The part that I didn't think very carefully about was the one right over the middle of the book, because there's that dip in it. So that hand, it's not going to be perfect. And there was a part of me for a second that kind of went, oh! And then I realized, if it's not perfect, it's just an oops, an outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. And indeed, that hand is not perfect, and it did end up becoming a handy oops a little bit later. Like how I did that pun, handy, get it? Okay, that one was really bad, but I just couldn't resist it. I want to get some words on here, and I'm going to use one of the words from on the stencil, and I'm going to go with the word leap. But if I'm going to put that around the red circle, I know I'm going to need to mask a little bit of this off because I'm not going to stencil that neatly or carefully. So I'm taking a piece of artist tape and just putting it over the word right above it, because I know if I'm going to get stuff on there. Now, if you don't have artist tape, just any kind of low tack tape. Basically, you just don't want something super sticky because you want to be able to easily pull it off when you're done. And now I'm going to start stenciling the letters on there one at a time. But I don't want to go over some of the letters because I'm going to do them one at a time. So that's where the Post-it note is going to become so handy for me. I'm going to move it with each letter. That way the word will curve right around. And then to get the other letter covered up, I'm going to bring a Post-it note for that side. Notice the carefulness with which I'm doing this, so to make sure that I don't over stencil anywhere, I don't get any paint where I don't want it, and I'm going to continue this all the way through doing the word leap. Now I decided that after doing one leap on there, I needed to have the letters going all the way around the circle, but I don't want to wait for everything to dry. I could have gotten out a heat gun, but I have some weird aversion to using heat guns. I'm not sure if in a past life I just had some kind of horrible experience with a heat gun or what, but I definitely don't want to get that out. So that's why I put that piece of deli paper there. That's just going to act as a little bit of a protector to keep me from smearing the blue paint on my person. And by the way, have you noticed I'm not using any of the Post-it notes this time? As I'm doing the letters this time, I realized, you know what, a cosmetic sponge can let me go in pretty surgically, and I'll bet I can do it without the Post-it notes. And it kind of reminds me of my first kid versus my second kid. The first kid, I sterilized everything, I worried, there were, all those first mom kind of things. And for my second kid, I was like, here kid, play with some electrical cords, go stick something in a light socket, keep yourself entertained. Can't imagine by the third kid what exactly it would have been like, but that's kind of like what this stenciling has been. The first one I was super careful, and then I'm getting less and less careful as I go. Hey, and by the way, if you're enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as I have a new video out, and that way you can join me for the fun. And you might even learn a couple of tips and tricks that you can use, especially things that you probably don't want to do. Something that I'm about to do with this pen, I don't recommend. It's going to be one of those things where do what I say and not what I do if you want your pens to have a long and happy life. Now, right now, everywhere that I'm doing some scribbled journaling, that's all dry paint, so I'm safe. But that blue paint that I just put on there, it's a heavy body paint, so it takes it a moment to dry, and it's not completely dry yet. If you put a pen on wet paint, you're living on the edge. That makes it tough for the pen to have a long and healthy life because wet paint can mess up pens. Now, I'm using a fountain pen here, and I'm still managing to get some paint on there. I'm trying to wipe it off, and sometimes if I just write with it on scrap paper, that'll unclog it. But this one, well, it's taking the whole wiping it off completely to get it, how shall we say, unclogged and working correctly again. So if you're using wet paint or have damp paint, you probably don't want to put a pen on it. But again, I have that heat gun aversion. I don't want to wait for things to dry, nor do I seem to want to help them dry. So I'm just going to make my pens work hard, and I know that because of this, they have slightly shorter lives. I chose a fountain pen for a reason though, because the fountain pen can take more abuse than say a felt tip or a ballpoint pen. So with these, because there's less mechanisms to clean out, it's just easier to rescue them from the damp paint. So that's why when I'm pushing the line here with any kind of damp or wet paint, if I'm going to use a pen, I'm going to go for the fountain pen. Now remember I said I made an oops earlier with the hand right on the seam of the middle of the book? Well, that oops, here's the opportunity for it. I wanted to define or add a little bit more to the hand, and that's why I'm tracing around this person with the pen. And that's also going to allow me to do a little extra journaling. And as I'm journaling on this, I realize there's a reason why I wrote leap, 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 and leap, or I should say stenciled it, over and over there. Because this person that's trying to make that jump, sometimes just hearing leap once for me isn't always enough. Because sometimes my head might know exactly what it is I need to do, but my heart, well, it hasn't quite caught up, and it needs a few more reminders, a little extra nudge here and there. And thankfully, my muse is incredibly patient with me. She's had to repeat all sorts of messages to me from the beginning to where I am now, especially when it comes to play. Because play wasn't always easy for me. That whole process of growing up kind of made me forget how to do it. But luckily, happily, my muse helped me rediscover how to play again, and I'm sharing some of those things that helped me find that ability to play once more in my free workshop called Permission to Play. And it's also a great introduction to mixed media if you're looking to find out a little bit more about what that's all about. As I'm finishing up this page, it looks like this pen is going to survive the play. It is going to live to write another day. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. And of course, if you've been enjoying the video, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as I have a new video out. And yep, yes indeed, if you want more fun, head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.